Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah has been hit by an intense bombing campaign overnight. A mosque and several homes have been destroyed, with residents calling it one of their worst nights yet. Gaza's health authorities and nearly 100 people were killed and 130 more wounded in the last 24 hours. But most victims are still trapped under the rubble. Israel has threatened to launch a full-blown attack on Rafah despite international pleas. The small border city is home to some 1.5 million Palestinians, many of them displaced due to the war. But truce talks are underway. US Middle East envoy Brett McGurk is expected to arrive in Israel following his stop in Egypt. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh, meantime, was also in Cairo for talks. And meantime, CIA Director William Burns will reportedly head to Paris tomorrow. That's to meet officials from Qatar, Egypt, as well as Israel, to discuss the release of hostages in Gaza. Over in the occupied West Bank, at least 3 people were killed and 8 others wounded in a shooting earlier today. Israeli police said that 3 Palestinian gunmen sprayed automatic weapon fire at several vehicles on a highway east of Jerusalem. Authorities say 2 of the attackers were killed and the 3rd arrested. Hamas says that the shooting is, quote, a natural response to Israel's crimes in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. For more, Sarah Coates joins us. She is live for us from Tel Aviv. Sarah, what do we know about the ongoing negotiations? I mean, this area is the tensions are only expanding. Can we expect to see some kind of progress?
That's certainly what the United States is hoping, Dawn. We do know now that the US Middle East envoy, Brett McGurk, he is here in Israel. He touched down a short while ago, and he will be meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, along with other senior officials, in just a couple of hours' time, with a War Cabinet meeting then to be held a little later this evening. Now, one of those members of the War Cabinet, Benny Gantz, he actually came out late last night to say that there are initial signs of a deal potentially moving forward that would see these 130 or so hostages released from Gaza. This comes amid reports in Hebrew media that Israel is preparing to send a delegation to Paris for further talks tomorrow. We've actually contacted the Elysee Palace asking about these talks. No comment there from the palace. But these would be the same type of talks that we saw last time around. As you mentioned there, the CIA director, Bill Burns, also Qatar's prime minister, the Egyptian spy chief, along with the Mossad chief, David Barnea. So that is potentially happening tomorrow. Israeli media reporting that Israeli officials are really watching talks that are happening now in Cairo very closely to see if there's any softening of Hamas's stance, and that would be the deciding factor on whether they actually send this delegation. But this comes amid widespread protests, really only increasing by the day, and especially yesterday after these comments by Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, who came out to say that bringing home these hostages is not the most important thing, and that the most important thing is defeating Hamas. So, of course, we will be watching these talks that are happening right across the region extremely closely today.
Yeah, Sarah, and all that happening as we have news of that highway shooting reported by Israeli police. I mean, there are reports as well of Israeli forces storming a Palestinian village in response to that shooting. What do we know so far about that?
You're certainly right. Right now, we do understand that there's a massive military build-up at a little village which is southeast of Bethlehem. We are hearing reports that Israeli forces are actually firing tear gas canisters at the entry to that village. It is the place that has been identified as where 2 of these shooters came from. They are brothers, 26 years old, another one 31 years old. They opened fire, as you mentioned, on this highway, a very busy highway which connects these West Bank settlements to Jerusalem, just a few hours ago, killing 1 Israeli, wounding around 11 others. Since that, we've heard some furious reactions from Israel's far right. The National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, he visited the scene shortly after, saying that the right for Israelis to live in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank referring to there, is more important than the freedom of movement of Palestinians. He's also vowing to arm more Israeli civilians, while the Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, he is now demanding that the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu push forward plans to establish more housing units, thousands of housing units in the West Bank. So certainly very angry reactions to that attack here in Israel.
Sarah, thank you for that update. Sarah Coates there in Tel Aviv.